part 12. Everything in this next part is real and about real life and the real world, and all the information in the next part is factual. So I had a swollen and red eyelid. A pharmacist said they thought I had a condition called blepharitis. Blepharitis can be associated with a species of mites called Demodex blepharitis. For a couple of days, every time I blinked, it felt painful. This meant I felt consciously aware of every time I blinked. This meant I became hyper-aware about blinking. I think, right, it's been quite a few seconds since I last blinked. I'll blink again, then I'd compulsively blink a couple more times to make sure I'm blinking enough. This is a form of sensory motor OCD, where you can worry about bodily sensations or bodily processes, such as being hyper-aware of other things like swallowing or your heartbeat. This meant I felt a lot of anxiety, and it was exhausting being constantly aware all the time of normally automatic bodily processes like blinking. After a couple of days, it stopped hurting as much when I blinked, and today I found out that the eye condition blepharitis has the same name as the mite species Demodex blepharitis. Mites are my autistic special interest. I love mites. I'm not mad at the mites for infecting me. I don't hate mites at all. I still love mites, and now I have an even stronger connection to mites. I have a special bond with mites, and I love them unconditionally. I don't even feel I need to forgive mites, because the mites are just trying to survive, just like us humans are trying to survive. Mites are a part of me. I am one with mites. It's like I'm never lonely because I have my little mite friends sitting perched on my eyelid. It's like I'm carrying the mite round, like when a parent carries their babies around in a backpack. The mites are the apple of my eye. I want to go sightseeing with all the mites. I want to explore the world together with them. I want to share every moment with them and do everything with them. They're so tiny and I want to look after them. I might have to get rid of them as this is a medical condition, but until then, I'll savor every moment with them. If it is the last day I see them, then I'll watch the sun set together with them at my eyelid. The sun will go down, and I'll say goodbye as the sun sets on our relationship. You may have invaded my eyelid, but really you've invaded my heart. You burrowed into my eyelid, and now you've metaphorically burrowed into my heart. As I put my eye to a telescope and look at the night sky, my eye is pressed up against the telescope, so the mites possibly living on my eyelid will be able to see through the telescope as well. I want to gaze up at the stars together with my eyelid mites. I'm starstruck by the mites. I actually drew this drawing on a moving train. The noise is because I recorded this at a train station. I was on the train to visit my grandma who lives in a different part of the country. I basically took the mites with me on holiday to visit my family together and introduce the mites to my family. My vision may be cloudy, but that's just because I'm on cloud 9 with my mites friends. Tomorrow I'm going on a walking trip. I'm going to go sightseeing with the mites and show all the mites the bridges in Newcastle in England. Here's a drawing of the Tyne Bridge going over the Tyne River, which I'm going to show my mite friends. Because I see through my eyes, and mites live on my eyes, we see the world through the same angle and perspective. We see the world through each other's eyes. It's a special connection. When I first noticed my red swollen eyelid, that may be the condition blepharitis, I thought my eyes might not be as symmetrical anymore because only one eye is infected. I heard that if a face is less symmetrical, you can look less attractive. I used to have a bad body dysmorphia as a teenager. I thought maybe I'd look less attractive if my eyes and therefore face looked less symmetrical. Currently, I have only had a red swollen eyelid for a few days, and in that time, lots of people have been saying I look really nice and have a nice face. This is really unusual because normally no one ever says I look nice, and I even find it hard to comprehend someone finding me attractive. Especially because with my OCD, I worry so much about creeping someone out or making them uncomfortable. Normally, it negatively affects my self esteem when no one ever says I look nice. I have a few theories why I've suddenly been getting lots of compliments the last few days. In the past, my eyes are one of the only things anyone has ever complimented me about. Now that I have a swollen red eyelid, it draws attention to my eyes, and people might notice my eyes more. A different theory is that the mites are my little babies I'm looking after. Women may be attracted to men who are good with kids because that's an indicator the man would make a good father to the woman's child. Because I look after mites like my babies, even if I don't know the actual age of the mites. But yeah, so because I look after mice like my little babies, maybe women see that and think, "Ooh, I'd make a good father because I'm so good with my mite babies." Of course, I would not be well enough to look after children, and therefore I would not want children. But maybe, even if I'm not a potential father, maybe women are still programmed to find caring men attractive who would make a good father, even if they're never going to actually be a father. Of course, this is all just speculation, and you have to take this all with a pinch of salt. And that's why mites burrowing into my eyes may make me more attractive to women. Mange is a disease in dogs that can cause reddening of a dog's skin and a dog's hair to fall out. Demodex mites can cause mange in dogs, just like they can contribute to red, swollen eyelids in humans, called blepharitis, and a reddening of the cheeks in humans, called rosacea. There are two species of Demodex mites that live on humans. These species are called Demodex follicularum and Demodex brevis. The word brevis means short, and Demodex brevis is shorter than Demodex follicularum. Demodex mites can also affect other mammals like dogs. However, the species of Demodex that infect humans are different to the Demodex species that infect dogs. The Demodex species that live on humans don't infect dogs, and the Demodex species living on dogs don't infect humans. There are 3 species of Demodex mites living on dogs. The shortest species is Demodex cornei. Demodex canis is a bit longer, and Demodex ingi is the longest out of the 3 species. Canis just means dog, so Demodex canis is called that because it affects dogs. So those 3 species of Demodex mites infect dogs. So mange in dogs can be caused by Demodex mites. So mange can cause a dog's hair to fall out, and it can cause a reddening of the dog's skin. Here's the side profile of someone's face with a condition called rosacea. You can see their eyes, cheek, and their nose to the right of that. Rosacea can also be associated with Demodex mites living on your face. Rosacea can cause the face to become redder or pink. And sometimes rosacea can progress and become a type of rosacea where the skin can thicken, and this can lead to a bumpy and bulbous nose with enlarged oil glands. This type of rosacea, involving thickening of the skin, can be called phymatous rosacea. My mom has rosacea, and rosacea is genetic. Although my mom's rosacea has not progressed to phymatous rosacea, rosacea can be genetic. Rosacea in general is more common in women, however rosacea can be more severe in men. My nose gets quite oily and bumpy, and so I do sometimes worry about if it will turn into the type of rosacea with thickened skin. I used to have very bad body dysmorphia, and I've always never wanted a big nose. I think men have bigger noses than women on average. This is the type of rosacea I'd want the least. You can need plastic surgery with this type of rosacea, but I've always been very sensitive and aversive to any pain or gore because of my autism. I wouldn't want plastic surgery. If you've ever wondered what might finally turn me against mites and make me become the mite and worm murderer, where I kill mites, it may be this form of rosacea. However, while more Demodex mites may be associated with rosacea, I'm not quite clear what the relationship between rosacea and Demodex mites is. There may be other factors involved, and so maybe I could not all put it down to mites, and so maybe I'd still like mites if I had this condition and was still interested in mites. Or maybe in a parallel universe, I'd turn into the mite and worm murderer and kill mites.